Alright, shout out everyone this week creation. Kung hindi pa kayo nakasubscribe, pasubscribe naman. At kung hindi pa kayo naka-like, pa-like naman ang ating video. So ngayong araw, ang bigyan natin ng comment and reaction, this personal comments and reaction, ay tungkol po dito sa confidential fund ng Office of the Vice President na hinihinga ng complete details ni Representative Rep.Edcel Lagman para umano ma-approve itong pondo ng Office of the Vice President. And of course, kaya nga sinasabing confidential fund kasi nga hindi pwede mabigyan ng complete na detalye o hindi pwede maisa publiko kung ano at kung saan ang mga budget na ito. Pero ika nga ayon kay VP Sara or ayon sa Office of the Vice President, ito ay nakadeklara or nakabase sa ating saligang batas. So ano ba yung saligang batas? Para saan ba ito gamitin? Alright, so ngayon panoorin natin at pakinggan kung saan nga ba dapat ito gamitin, kung saan ito i-allocate ng Office of the Vice President.
President, Her Excellency Sara Duterte, together with the team from the Office of the Vice President. Mr. Speaker, I am now ready to answer any interpellations regarding the budget of the Office of the Vice President.
Just like any other government agency, the Office of the Vice President must not get an appropriation it does not deserve. When the Vice President serves as a Cabinet Secretary, she is doing that not really as Vice President, but as a member of the Cabinet. Is that correct?
I agree, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
From the second half of 2016, the first half of 2020, the total appropriations for the Office of the Vice President amounted to only 3,836,846,000 for a period of 6 years. Thus, the distinguished sponsor confirmed this.
I confirm based on records of our reviews General Appropriations Act from 2016 to 2022, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
In other words, the average annual appropriation of the previous Vice President was only 639,474,000. Is that correct?
I confirm, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
What is the proposed appropriation for the Office of the Vice President for 2023?
One of the major programs that the Office of the Vice President will implement that is new, probably compared to the previous Vice Presidents, is the establishment of regional offices for the Office of the Vice President. It is because it is the intention of the Vice President to be more accessible to the people in terms of the delivery of social services. Another new program that the Office of the Vice President will implement is the Libreng Sakay program that intends also to cater the free transportation services intended for our constituents in the different parts of the country. And to name a few, Magnegosyo Taday is one of the new programs that the Vice President also intends to implement, especially that we are now under the recovery phase of our COVID pandemic. It is the intention of the Vice President to complement also the Office of the President in implementing recovery programs, especially on economic and livelihood support to our people. And that is only some of the new programs that the Office of the Vice President intends to do once this proposal will be approved for next year. Mr.
So yun pa lang mga idol, no? Dito pa lang sa regional satellite offices ng ating Vice President ay napakalaking tulong na. Kasi unang-una, kung may complaint ka, kung may kailangan ka sa Office of the President, sa mga nakaraang Vice Presidente, kailangan pumunta ng Manila. So dito mga idol, may kakaroon ng mga satellite offices yung ating Office of the Vice President para mas madali po makalapit yung mga mamamayan o yung sambayan ng Pilipino if in case na may kailangan po silang humingi o kailangan nila humingi ng tulong sa Office of the Vice President. So isa pa lang yun. Ito yung isa yung napaka-importante. Ito yung free rides. Ang free rides kasi ay gagawing nationwide. So para makatulong po, lalo na sa ating mga kababayan na nagtitipid sa pamasahe. So yung Office of the Vice President ay magkakaroon ng free rides at malaking tulong yan, lalo na sa ating mga ordinaryong manggagawa. And then of course yung pagtulong ng ating Office of the Vice President sa Office of the President para sa recovery ng COVID-19. So diyan pa lang, aprobado na tayo dyan mga idol. Ayan, yan po yung isa or yung mga bagay-bagay na pagpupunduhan ng confidential fund.
Speaker, Your Honor.
Thank you. Regional offices are designed to be established by the Office of the Vice President.
As of now, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, the Office of the Vice President has already established 7 satellite offices that are strategically located in different parts of the country. And as of this moment, these 7 satellite offices are located in Dagupan, Tacloban, Cebu, Bacolod, Tandag, Zamboanga, and Davao. Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
And how much, Mr. Speaker, is allocated for the creation and operation of the satellite offices?
There is no separate budget intended for the satellite offices established in these locations. The operation is centrally operated based on the budget which is now being used by the Office of the Vice President. Your Honor, Mr. Speaker.
Now, how can regional satellite offices function if there is no budget for these satellite offices?
I mentioned earlier, with the proposal of the Office of the Vice President, it proposes for an allocation of 150 million in order to operate the regional and satellite offices, which will be broken down into personal services, social services, and other MOE that will operate its new programs and projects. Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
May we request the distinguished sponsor not to repeat her answers because it is eating my time.
Office of the Vice President will operate based on the amount being proposed, and if
So napikon doon si Representative Lagman. Don't repeat the answer because it's eating my time.
there will be extension or establishment of more, then there will be adjustments based on whatever is given by Congress as an appropriation for the Office of the Vice President.
Funds in the magnitude of 500 million.
Vice President, being a former local chief executive of the city of Davao, who is a staunch supporter of advocacy on peace and order and national security, deemed it proper to be a complementing partner with the Office of the President in assuring that all of the President's programs will be implemented based also on the perspective of ensuring of a peaceful and a secured nation. And it is the intention of the Honorable Vice President to implement her programs using these confidential funds to assist and help all agencies in ensuring and assisting in achieving national security in the country, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker.
Well, let me remind the distinguished sponsor, Mr. Speaker, that the Office of the Vice President has its own confidential and intelligence fund amounting to about 4.5 billion pesos for 2023, similar to the confidential and intelligence fund of President Rodrigo Duterte. Now, in a nutshell, distinguished sponsor, what is the justification for granting the Office of the Vice President confidential fund, which is unprecedented in magnitude?
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, the amount of 500 million as confidential fund is for the safe implementation of projects and activities of the Office of the Vice President, with proper security coordination and safety protocols for the benefit of the organization and the availing public. Said budget is intended for the expenditures under COA DBM DILG GCG DND Joint Circular number 2015-01 dated January 8, 2015, such as purchase of information necessary for the formulation and implementation of program, activities and projects relevant to national security and peace and order, rental of transport vehicle related to confidential activities, rental and incidental expenses related to maintenance of safe houses, purchase or rental of supplies, material, and equipment for confidential operations that cannot be done through regular procedures without compromising the information gathering activity concerned, payment of rewards to informers, subject to the conditions set forth in the same circular, uncover, prevent illegal activities that pose a clear and present danger to agency personnel and property or other facilities and resources under the agency protection, done in coordination with the appropriate law enforcement agencies and others that may be authorized by the GAA or other special laws. Mr. Speaker.
The distinguished sponsor is just reading the provisions of Joint Circular number 2015-01 issued on January 8, 2015, entitled Guidelines on the entitlement, release, use, reporting, and audit of confidential and or intelligence funds. Now, could the distinguished sponsor give us an itemization, a specific enumeration of what activities and programs will be conducted and budgeted from the 500 million confidential fund?
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, my apologies for I cannot give all the details and specifics of the activities intended for this confidential fund. If Your Honor may agree, I can share it with him later confidentially, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
Well, we are not in a confidential interaction.
Ayaw niya rin pala ng confidential interaction. So, ibigay na nga lang daw sa kanya confidential. So, ibig sabihin, ibigay sa kanya, ipakita sa kanya secretly or sa kanya lang mismo ipakita ang yung details kung saan ka ba talaga gamitin yung confidential fund. So, parang naasa din siya.
I think if we would like to grant the Office of the Vice President 500 million confidential funds, then this should be justified, and members of the House should know what will be the projects and programs
As provided by the general guidelines in the utilization of the confidential fund, the Office of the Vice President has already formulated its fiscal and financial plan as a compliance to the utilization of the confidential fund.
If there is such a prepared fiscal and financial plan, can this representation and members of the House be given soonest or forthwith a copy of the fiscal and financial plan?
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, if this honorable body would demand for the copy of the fiscal and financial plan, then the Office of the Vice President will gladly do so in an executive session, considering that we are tackling the appropriation and utilization of a confidential fund. However, I can enumerate the performance indicators that the Office of the Vice President has prepared.
No.
And
I'm
if
not
that will suffice the query of the Honorable Lagman, then I can enumerate these performance indicators, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
No, I'm asking for a
Maganon talaga si Lagman, mga idol. Hindi niya talaga matanggap.
copy of the fiscal and financial plan as required by the Joint Circular number 2015-01. Mr. Speaker, I move that we request the Office of the Vice President a copy of the fiscal and financial plan.
Honor, we will submit the financial plan to the Office of the Speaker and the Committee on Appropriations. Mr. Speaker, Your Honor. Confidential expenses refer to those related to surveillance activities in civilian government agencies that are intended to support the mandate or operation of the agency. Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
That is defined in the circular, joint circular. Is it correct?
That is correct, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
And that should be followed.
Honor.
And what is the limitation in the utilization of confidential fund pursuant to the joint circular?
The limitation based on what I have enumerated earlier, based on the circular on the utilization of the confidential fund, which I have enumerated earlier. This is under COA DBM-DILG GCD DND Joint Circular number 2015-01. Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
For the information of the members of the House, could the distinguished sponsor read? We will like to see whether in the fiscal and financial plan, all of these are observed by the Office of the Vice President so that we can properly allocate what is necessary for the Office of the Vice President. Mr. Speaker, considering my time is about to be up, in the spirit of patriotism and frugality, considering the limited fiscal space which resulted to the decrease in the appropriations of most government agencies, could the distinguished sponsor ask the Honorable Vice President if she is willing to forego of her confidential funds?
The Honorable Vice President believes that she can fully implement as a complement of the Office of the President by operating under these confidential funds with her intention to assist the President and other offices under the Executive Department in ensuring that all of this be done with the intention of ensuring peaceful and a secured nation, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
She submits to the discretion of Congress with respect to the funding of confidential fund in the Office of the Vice President. Thank you.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we suspend session for a few minutes to allow
Session.
the next agency to prepare for the...
Session.
So yung mga idol, no? Yung parang debate na yung nangyayari doon. So yung mga question naman lahat ni si Representative Lagman ay nabigyan naman ng maayos na kasagutan ng sponsor and of course ng Office of the Vice President. So ilang nga dito sa mga highlights na itanungan ni Representative Lagman kung ano ba talaga ang kailangan o ano ba talaga yung paggagamitan ng confidential fund ng Office of the Vice President for the fiscal year 2023. So yun nga, isa sa mga nabanggit mo dito, isa po sa mga naisagot ng sponsor ay pag-create or paglagay ng iba-ibang regional satellite offices ng Office of the Vice President kung saan pwede po malapitan ng ating mga sambayanan or ng ating mga mamamayan if in case na mayroon po kailangan na tulong. So pwede po tayo lumapit sa mga regional offices na ipoput up ng Office of the Vice President. At of course, yung free ride po na in-offer ng Office of the Vice President. And then yung Isa pa dito mga idol, yung peace and order and national security. So yan po yung isa sa paggamitan ng confidential fund. And then yung, yes, ang paggamit ng confidential fund is with the coordination with the DILG or DBM with proper coordination. And sinabi nga rin ng sponsor, lahat po ng mga details kung saan po gagamitin itong confidential fund ay isasubmit ng Office of the Vice President sa Kamara. So ibig sabihin, hindi po pwede banggitin dito sa kanilang pag-uusap ni Representative Lagman. So yung fiscal plan ay isasubmit sa committee kung saan sila po yung mag-aproba ng budget of the Office of the Vice President. And of course, kasama po dito sa paggagastusan ng confidential fund ng Office of the Vice President ay yung surveillances and of course yung payment ng mga warehouses, rentals ng mga sasakyan na gagamitin sa mga special operation or secured operation. And then yun din, isa sa pinaka-last po ay yung confidential fund ay gagamitin din sa pag-assist ng Office of the President ensuring for peace and order. So, yun po yung ilan sa mga natakil at napag-usapan at yun po ang ilang paliwanag na binigay po sa atin ng Office of the Vice President para po dito sa issue ng confidential fund. So alam naman natin mga idol kung gaano ito magtrabaho yung Duterte legacy. Simula pa lang kay dating President Rodrigo Duterte, so alam naman natin kung paano ito magtrabaho, kung gaano ito katapat sa kanilang ginampanang serbisyo. So alam natin yan mga idol. So ito naman si VP Sara, alam naman natin kung paano ito magtrabaho. So tayong mga Pilipino ay umaasa naman na ito ay itong confidential fund ay magagamit sa maayos at serbisyong mapakinabangan ng ating mga kababayan. So I hope na ito si Representative Lagman ay maliwanagan at tuluyan ng i-approve itong budget ng Office of the Vice President na 500 million para sa confidential fund. So yan po yung ating reaction and comment sa confidential fund ng Office of the Vice President and of course sa usapan ng sponsor and of course kay Representative Lagman. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. This week creation. God bless.